Is that visible?
Yeah, visible, sir.
Mona? Is it visible?
Visible, sir. Clear.
Okay. Am audible also?
Yeah, audible also.
Okay. So I think the topic is very, very interesting, I would say. I had to do a lot of homework for this topic because the use of ICT in blended mode of pharmacy education and theory supporting blended learning is a very interesting topic, and I am very sure that with little of my experience, the participants are gonna enjoy this talk, and I shall be grateful. I think most of things has already been told in previous 3 days. One by Professor B. Suresh, who himself is an authority and President Pharmacy Council of India. Then of course Dr. G. Jabalan, another good friend of mine, has taken our first day, second day session, and he has also narrated a lot of concepts on this blended mode of pharmacy education. And of course, yesterday Professor Dr. Mohammad Salahuddin has shared his experiences, and I'm very sure you people must have enjoyed it. I will definitely like to put some important points of my experience also. In that, I would like to show you one video first. Okay. I'd like to share one video with you people.
Hello, a warm welcome to all from
Audible?
STT University.
Yeah, yeah, sir.
I am Dr. Vijay Bhalla from
Video
STT
is
College of
audible
Pharmacy.
and
Yeah,
visible?
Today we
audible and
will be
visible, sir.
learning about dosage form, more specifically active pharmaceutical ingredients and excipients. The effectiveness of a pharmaceutical agent depends on its form and route of administration. Therefore, it is important to understand the various drug forms in which drugs are dispensed. A dosage form is made up of two parts primarily. Number one, the active pharmaceutical ingredients, API, which is also known as raw material, chemical, salt, or drug substance. And number two, the non-medicinal agents, which are known as excipients, fillers, additives, etc. For example, flavoring agents, coloring agents. Excipients are the substance which holds the ingredient in the tablet together, like binders. At times, formulation requires certain delivery systems also, like matrices and other novel drug delivery systems like transdermal. APIs and excipients are obtained from chemical sources, either by synthesizing in the lab, also from herbal sources, mineral sources, and even from biological sources. APIs are synthesized in the API manufacturing units by mixing of the chemicals, heating them for solvent evaporation, and then cooling for crystallization. The crystals are isolated by centrifugation and then dried in the ovens or dry. Later they are checked for purity by high performance liquid chromatography, gas chromatography, or ultraviolet spectroscopy. If the APIs are required in small quantities, they are processed in kilo labs for pilot scale production. For larger quantities, they are obtained by using stainless steel reactors or glass liner reactors, then mixing in the mixers and heated to evaporate the solvents. Water coolers are used to retain reduce the temperature to minus 30 degree. Nitrogen gas, vacuum pumps and air compressors and water purification plant is mandatory as a part of utilities to control impurities. Chilling towers are also used to reduce temperature to 25 degrees. They are used in large scale production. Condensers, advanced mixers and tray dryers, vacuum tray dryers, rotary cone vacuum dryers are also used for large scale production. Finally, the analytical grade active pharmaceutical ingredients are packed and stored in warehouses with proper labeling.
Today we learned about
Just a minute. So I wanted to share with you that this video was created by me in my voiceover and assembling some of the videos clippings from the net. So I utilize the digital technology, okay, just for teaching active pharmaceutical ingredients. And as we know, we all are pharmacists. We convert active pharmaceuticals to a gold drug. Gold drugs are so those ideal drugs which has maximum benefits. Okay. Similarly, when a student comes to our institutes, they are the active pharmacy individuals. Our objective is to convert them to the competent pharmacist structure. So that is our objective. So teacher-student relations are very beautiful, and like API, a scientist, a formulation pharmacist convert it into a gold drug. Similarly, active pharmacy individuals, when they join your institute, they come with a lot of dreams. They come with a lot of dreams of getting skilled competency-wise and want to become a competent pharmacist so that they can really do justice to their education. So I'm audible now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what teacher is basically? I think you must have seen Main Hoon Na mein this beautiful lady as a teacher. But teacher particularly is the cornerstone of any education system. The quality of education both is determined and dependent on the quality of its teacher only. So teachers are advised not to focus on knowledge only, but to focus on teaching learning processes also, pedagogical contents also, and the various tools which they use to reach to the students. So in a class, what do we expect? We don't expect a teacher presence in a class. We want in a class teaching presence. A teacher presence, merely teacher presence will not justify the actual learning. So we have gone through, I think many of us know it also, that the Dale's cones of experience. If we read any content, it retain with just 10% with us. And normally what we do, we read definitions, a simple descriptions, or listing of anything, or explaining something. So here my suggestion is, whenever we even evaluate or make some question papers also, I think we should be very, very, I would say, selective. If we are saying something, describe. So students should know how much to describe. Describe in 100 words or describe in 500 words. Explain. To what extent explain? These are the subjective terms. Don't say explain particular theorem, explain that principle, explain ICT. So explain can be even in 1,000 pages, explanation can be in a 1 page also. So we have to, framing in questions, have to be very, very specific that how much is to explain. So whenever we read or hear anything, when we hear and read, then 20% of what we hear retain to a person or to any individual. Similarly, when we show some visual concepts, we view images, we watch videos. Just now we had a watch of one video. 30% of what we saw could be retained in our memory. Then we have to attend some exhibitions, conferences. So there also we learn around 50% because we hear, see, and we have a visual impact also. We watch any demonstration. This is also very important. This is particularly an experiential learning when someone is demonstrating in the laboratory. So one experiment well demonstrated in the laboratory can really reach to the student up to 50% because they are hearing also, seeing also, and seeing the demonstration by a lab demonstrator or faculty members also. So demonstrate, apply, and practice. These are the three very important factors again in learning outcomes. Then if we participate in the hands-on workshop, if we design a collaborative lesson with 2 or 3 other faculty members, I think we are able to reach 70% of what they see and write. If we simulate something, simulation is another technology which I'll talk later, a model or experience a lesson.
Sir, did you share the slides?
Yeah, sure. Slides are there already. It is not visible.
Not visible. Slides are not visible, sir.
Okay, just.
I think not shared, sir. Maybe.
Okay, sorry. Just a minute. Okay, I think.
Yeah.
It is visible now?
Yeah, visible also.
Okay. Sorry.
Maybe, sir.
So I was sharing that active pharmaceutical ingredient and gold drug, and then active pharmacy individuals and competent pharmacists. That should be our objective in our school or our institute. Then I told that teacher who teachers are, and teachers are the cornerstone, and the quality of education is determined and dependent on teachers only. Teachers should focus not only on knowledge but on teaching learning process, pedagogical contents and tools also. So in the class we expect teaching presence, not the teacher presence. So I was sharing the Dale Cone of experience where we read, hear, view images, watch videos, attend exhibitions, watch a demonstration. We participate in hands-on workshop, design a collaborative lesson. We go for simulation centers, models or experience a lesson, or we perform something in do real time. So designing and performing a presentation. So these all has some retention. People generally what remember and retain in their memory, ranging from 10% to 90%. And what are the learning outcome? Learning outcome could be describe, explain, demonstrate, apply, practice, analyze, design, create or evaluate. And same these theories are extrapolated in Bloom's taxonomy also. Bloom's taxonomy is another model where the classification of learning outcomes and objectives are defined, and the original sequence of cognitive skills was knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis and evaluation. And this synthesis was lately removed and replaced with creation or create. So if we see knowledge is being remembered, अगर हम सिर्फ knowledge impart कर रहे हैं, student will remember only, they will not carry forward it to the application mode. If we are giving comprehensions, then they understand also. If we help them in practicals to apply that knowledge on some practicals, they apply it and they get some application of it. Then they analyze it, then they evaluate it, and finally they create. We should expect a student should create a design, create a model. He should be able to analyze what they have learned, and finally they should design and create something new which is expected from them. So this basically Bloom's taxonomy in learning plays a very important role, because recognizing and recalling the facts is only definition, list, name. These should be those particular things which cannot be changed. Where the Taj Mahal is situated, I think that is the only we have to remember only. But in pharmacy, I understand most of our learning should be experiential learning, because understanding what the facts means and understanding the physics of tablet making, understanding the compression, understanding the coating and all that. So all these important things, then we have to apply those things. apply in our practice, implementing, developing, solving, journalizing, operating, and planning. Like if you have handled a rotary compression machine in your institute or lab or in any particular industry, you will definitely will be able to apply it at many other places also what you have learned. So then that this sequence rise to the level of analysis where we break down the information on various different basic parts. We classify them, divide them, differentiate them, research them, discover them. This helps in our research work. Like if I have analyzed 100 prescriptions for any particular disease or disorders, now it is up to me how I classify. I classify based on their age or genders, or I classify based on the antibiotics used, or I classify them on the basis of steroids being used in COVID prescription, or for that matter, the frequency of doses from the number of days stay in the hospital. So this is how we analyze some information. So I think every information can be analyzed. This really opens up our mind for a better learning outcome. Then we evaluate, we judge the value of information and idea. This evaluation part is very important. I think this is an evaluation scheme which our curriculum suggests us, so that we can find out who is good, who is better, or who is best. Okay, so we have to validate, justify, critics, rate, prioritize, select, assess, and monitor all this. We'll be talking later what is AMI. Then finally, if we are really proficient in any one of this, all these application and ideas, then we should be able to design and create. I think this is what our PhD scholars or even PG scholar does in their practice. They try to make a new formulation, a nano emulsion, nano particles, nano fibers, nano crystals. What are they? They are creating and designing with the evaluation, with the understanding and applications which they have learned in their undergraduate and postgraduate programs. So designing and creating something that is definitely helpful in our higher education structure, where PG students as well as the PhD students can really get into these type of designing. So I understand this is very important for each and every teacher as well as the student also, so that whatever we are planning, we can execute to the student level. That is very important. So now we'll start with what is a blended or hybrid learning. I think these are synonyms basically. Hybrid learning is a learning model where some students attend class in person while others join the class virtually from home. Teachers teach remote and in person students at the same time using tools like video conferencing, hardware and software. They are reaching to the students which are far away also. So that is the mode of hybrid. So if we see what blended learning, it's a similar only. So in person and in classroom, that is a traditional face-to-face in-person learning, whereas online teaching is purely a distant and distributed teaching, and it is always technology-enabled learning. Without technology, I think we are not able to reach you. As today, I'm not able to reach you without the MS Team platform, without my system, Wi-Fi and all that. So I'm reaching to you on these technology-enabled learning only. So if we differentiate blended learning, if it is face-to-face, then there is no technology involved. We can really chalk and duster normally we use, or smart classrooms have been now taken shape. There we are adding some technology to it. Or if we are having a purely distance education or online teaching, then all technology is there, no physical presence of a teacher is there. Okay, like Coursera work we do, Swayam and Neptal and many other programs we are doing, certificate courses we are doing. I think they are 100% technology enabled. But in blended mode, the delivery is important. We work on delivery, and delivery can be in the classroom with some technological aids. It can be flipped or it can be hybrid. Okay, so it is a blended, means it is a hybrid, flipped and classroom aided type of learning. So here we are talking of delivery of the content. technology is there or no technology. So ultimately delivery is important. So blended learning has a technology as well as the presence of a teacher also. What are the importance of these blended or hybrid learning? If we see the importance, it gives a flexible teaching and learning. I think it is up to a teacher. He can reschedule his classes in the evening also, late evenings also, early mornings also, depending upon the availability of the convenience of the teacher as well as students, and accommodate the differently abled type of students also who are not able to reach to the classrooms also, like anyone who got a fracture and not able to come to the school and class can have classes with this. It reaches to the remote areas also, in the rural periphery also, where of course the connectivity one issue has to be resolved, otherwise it can reach to the remote areas also. It mitigates long student absences also, and then familiarize user with modern technology also. It has to have a knowledge of modern technical support system also. So this is one of some of the very important importance of being a hybrid learning. Now we look at the principles. What are the various principles used in hybrid learning? We have a multidisciplinary type of team. We have a 3, 4, 5 people working in one group are teachers. We have a theoretical knowledge via MOOCs. MOOCs are nothing but these are massive open online type of courses which anyone can design, anyone can float, anyone can reach to any level. We have our actual real world problems. Then one of the principle, if we work on some actual real world problems, then the reflection of knowledge through discussions and applications with examples. So knowledge and discussions and applications. And then another principle is lecturer is not a knowledge
Sir, I think some technical issue is there.
Yeah, sir will join shortly.
Dear participants, please don't leave. Be there. We are trying to get him in again. He will join us shortly. Yes, he is here.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I saw there may be some network.
No problem, sir. No problem.
Sorry. I'll reshare my slides. So I think we covered here the importance of hybrid learning tak.
Yeah, sir.
यहाँ तक था ना, importance of flexible teaching and learning, accommodating the differently abled people, reaching to the remote areas, mitigating long-term absences and familiarizing modern technology. Then we discussed about the hybrid learning principles in multidisciplinary teams are one such principle. Theoretical knowledge via MOOCs, massive open online courses is one such principle. Actual real world problems is hybrid learning principle. Reflection on the knowledge through discussion and application with examples. And lectures is not a knowledge mediator. Lecturers are the innovators and the coach and the mentors basically. So we use various tools in hybrid learning. We use face-to-face training. We use virtual classrooms. We use webinars. We use links, simulations. We'll discuss later. A lot of assessments are done online and one-to-one coaching via mentors or coach. We have a rotation.
Sir, use full screen of the PPT.
Okay.
Okay.
Then we have a lab rotations and station rotation and flipped classroom. Lab rotation we have been using these days due to pandemic. Like we are calling few students doing their demonstration for 1 week, 2 weeks, and then rotating another batch. So these type of practices, we are already, a pandemic has given us a lot of ideas, and we are really implementing these ideas in today's practice. So blended face-to-face class is a face-to-face driver model. This model allows student and faculty to share more high-value instructional time, because class time is used for higher order learning activities such as practicals, discussion, and group projects. Blended online classes is an online driver model. This class is mostly conducted online, but there are some required in-person activities such as lectures or labs. So we are adopting, like new education policy has also given us a flexibility of using offline as well as online learning. 60% offline, 40% online, wherein we have a 15% multidisciplinary type of knowledge, 5% of value-added type of knowledge, and then 20% of we can have these MOOC type of courses and all that. So this is a flexibility even UGC and new education policies providing us. In flipped type of classroom, students in flipped classes watch a short lecture video online and come into a classroom to complete activities such as group work, projects, and exercises. In rotation model, students in a course rotate between various modalities, one of which is online learning like station rotation, lab rotation, individual rotations, etc. Self-blended model gives us a self-blending is a program level model. Learners use this model in a school but take online classes in addition to that traditional face-to-face courses. The blended MOOCs are student access MOOC material, perhaps from another institutions or instructors if the course is openly accessible. Outside of the class, then they come to the class meeting for discussion in class activities. And similarly, we have a flexible mode courses. Flexible mode courses offers all instruction in multiple modes, in person and online. And student chooses how to take these courses. So we have a various tools available. So now we get into the basics of theories behind this and theories supporting this ICT learning. ICT is nothing but it is an information and communication technology in education to support, enhance, and optimize the delivery of information. ICT can lead to an improved student learning and better teaching methods. Blended learning in turn gives to the educational practice of combining digital learning tools with more traditional classroom face-to-face teaching. So in true blending learning environment, both the student and the teacher should be physically located in the same space area. Like we are basically now physically located by virtue of MS Team platform or Wi-Fi's and all that. So now we will see one by one what is the theories of information, what does information components and how it works. If we see any information system, it has a 5 integral part. Information system starts with a person only, a people. Then we do have a network, a well connected. I'm sorry, apologize, my network connectivity was with low bandwidth, so we missed. So network is one of a great concern area in country like us. Then we must have one software like platform, MS Team helping us. We have a hardware, we have our smartphones or systems with us, and we are transferring the data or contents. So if we see in this grid, if we are giving only information, so in information and communication technology, we have only information technology and communication technology. But if we use information, communication and technology, then we have all the 4 elements. We have information also, we have communication also, we have information technology also, and we have communication technology also. So maybe the purely online classes have our information and communication technology only. We see now the communication, theories of communication. I think theories of communication starts with if we check the components of communication, we must have a communication goal. Like I have a theme today to reach you on a ICT component and theories. So I have a goal in my mind that my information or my ideas must reach you. You are my target audience. So you people, all the faculty from all across the country is my target audience. So having a target audience is one of a great theory or component in this communication setup. Then we have one implementation plan. We had a EFDP program launched by Maharaja Agrasen, and that was an implementation plan. We had a communication channel. I think Dr. Yogendra Singh had been working for so many days to have a channels of delivering the content well on time. So now after that we will have an evaluation plan that whether we'll be able to really justify the EFDP program and we could help our faculty members in delivering the contents. Now if we check the theory supporting blended learning in communication, I think some of the key component of communication is probing or questioning, and questioning only arises with curiosity and imagination. If we imagine high, if we are curious to know, we should have an initiative and entrepreneurship. Only then we'll be able to ask some question and we'll be able to answer. Then we must be agile and adaptable. Agar hame technology ko, if we are not able to adopt it, I am very sure then we'll be a weaker link in that network. We should have a critical thinking and problem solving approach in communication. We should have a very effective oral written communication. We should have a good presentation skills. We should collaborate all across the network with and lead by influence. That is a collaboration. So that reaches to the masses in communication. And finally, we must have the skills of accessing, analyzing the information. So communication is only complete when we match all these components and we are able to reach to to the extent which we want to reach to the masses, or we are maybe students, faculty members or management to whom we want to reach. Similarly, the third component, technology, if we see the theories of technology, technology has a lot of components. And if we see, we are using internet access, we are using cloud computing for storage, we are using various types of software for understanding and playing our programs. We are having hardworks in shape of smartphones and PCs or laptops. We have a transaction baskets. We have a communication technologies working for it, and we have a data which really reaches through the technology. So if we look into the educational technology component, We are digitalized. Digitalization is one of a great technology in education which has been adopted. Wireless technologies really working very hard. Cloud computing, cloud technology, virtual reality technology where simulations and all that is happening, and e-learning is one of a great technology where we are really able to meet and reach to many people online. So what is the rationale basically? Why in theories, what is the rationale of having FDP program and then having this ICT technology? Number one, to sensitize and motivate the faculty to adopt ICT integrated learning and assessment tools. So idea is key of each faculty member has to adopt to the learning and assessment both tools. You must use Kahoot type of programs to assess the students. So similarly, to accept interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary and applied approach to knowledge and curriculum. So as I told you, a new education policy specifies multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary and applied type of approaches to the knowledge. Maybe a time to come, our curriculum will have an artificial intelligence and engineering part. Biostatic has already taken shape in M-Form and B-Form. So these type of programs or subjects will definitely be a part of our curriculum. To use flexible scientific evaluation process to develop multiple skill sets and competencies. So that is very important because industry looks into the multiple skill sets and competencies in our students. So then that is very essential. We should be proficient not only in communication with our language, we should be competent with our presentation skills in form of videos and PPTs. We should be competent in delivering it, and then we should be competent in handling the digital devices also. So another rationale is to promote academic excellence in teachers, teaching innovations, research capabilities and leadership skills. I think if we are able to use a lot of biostatistical programs and softwares or computational modeling softwares, we can design a drug, or definitely we can do a lot of statistical analysis and we can publish a good paper. So to improve the professional capability and performance of a teacher to deliver effective and quality learning, that is very important. So looking at the various theories supporting blended learning, there are two major theories and learners is at the center. One theory is the complex adopted blended learning system. I understand it is complex because each teacher is not proficient maybe today, but we have to accept it that adaptive blended learning system has to be there. We have to adopt it. And second is a community of inquiry, theoretical framework like questioning and probing. So these are the two major theories working behind the blended learning, and learner is at the center. Learner is at the center, and towards learner there are another 5 components. One is a teacher, another is a technology, third is a content, fourth is a learning support system, and fifth is the management or institution. So how does these two theories work? Look at learner can be a researcher, can be a practitioner, can be a collaborator, or can be a student also. So learner can be anyone, even faculty who is researching is a learner. Anyone who is doing practice is a practitioner, he is also a learner. Or any collaborator who really wants to have a upgradation of their skills is a learner. So we have teacher, technology and institution at place. A teacher becomes a facilitator. I told teacher is not a teacher presence in the class, he becomes a facilitator as a basically a coach to the group of people. He becomes a moderator, he is a guide on the slide, and he is an advisor to each and everyone. So that is the role of a teacher in this theory. Then we look at the technology. It should be synchronous, asynchronous, offline, online. So it should sync with all the softwares, hardwares and other parameters where we want to have. In institution, we must have a strategy. and support. If our institutions are not having a huge server room, huge technology enabled MS Team licensed, or we do not have a ERP licensed or Moodle's learning management systems at place, then I am very sure we will be very slow in implementing the technology part. So institutions should have a strategy to implement, should have a huge support system, service system, and better infrastructure to adopt all these type of technology at the earliest. I think now the time has come, each university institute must adopt to all these technologies, because the time future 40% if online learning is there, so we have to have an examination, assessments, teaching, everything online. So we must have a perfect system at place so that we are able to deliver our content without any hitch and network problems. Then we come to another two elements. One is a content. Here lies the preparation of a teacher. Collaborative learning is one part where the content can be better framed. Interactive learning, individualized learning, problem-based learning, and deeper learning. So these are the type of content we present. We can have a student and teacher both as a collaborator in delivering one topic. We can have an interactive learning by asking question and then giving ideas. Individualized learning, problem-based learning, deeper learning. So content delivery is very important. And then learning support is another important system. Do we have a digital library? Do we have e-textbooks? Do we have another support system in learning? The service and support system. So this CABLS framework is one of the greatest theory which we see, which works in the blended learning. So now we come down to a second theory, which is a community of inquiry, means beyond content. Here the content doesn't have any role, but we have presence of the education experience. If we want to feel, we should have a cognitive presence, teaching presence, social presence, and emotional presence. These four components are very essential basically to have a community of inquiry. If person wants to develop their skills, he must be cognitively type presence. He should be connected with the processes of understanding. If he is not connected, any student is not connected, any teacher is not connected, then this will not trigger any event, this will not explore, integrate, and resolve any problem. So cognitive presence is another very important theory. So we must adopt some principles where we can arouse their interest in the topic so that they are skillfully present in the class, online class or offline class, or whatever. Then teaching presence, as I told you, teacher presence is not mattered now. It is a teaching presence, ideas and beliefs that are taught. With what firm belief and confidence you are teaching. That important part is very important in the life of a teacher or a faculty member. Then social presence. If these two are present, cognitive and teaching, I am very sure the connectivity with the society is already there. The connected with society is a social presence. Then if he is developing some skill, it is definitely going to help the masses indirectly, because an educated person will definitely help the society. Then emotional presence is another part where outward expression of the feelings is also important. So anyone who is not emotionally involved in teaching, I think will definitely not able to deliver the content. So presence in my term is a state of alertness, awareness, receptivity, connectedness to the social, cognitive, emotional, and physical working spaces. So to create deep and meaningful learning, what do? How we build higher order thinking skills? We do by active inquiry process, which start with using questions, problems, and material to invite learners to identify relation between concepts and variables. So asking question, getting answers, then again arousing interest, that is one of a great theory working here. Questions or problems are presented and the learners discover the paths to answer themselves. So assessment becomes another part here. Questions and problems are presented. Then a topic is presented and learners themselves identify questions, problems, methods and answers, while the teachers provide guidance and facilitates learning. This is in case of PhD and MPhil scholars, where what do? We present a topic. Now the learner themselves identify the questions, problems, methods, and here the guide, supervisor, co-supervisor help them to facilitate particularly. Okay, so this theory has three major engagements: engagement with the participants, engagement with the contents, and engagement with the goals and directions. So these three engagements is very important. Engagement with participant is a social presence, engagement with the content is a cognitive presence, engagement with goals and directions is a teaching presence. So if participant and directions it matches, then the setting it becomes a good climate for learning. When engagement with content and directions match, we are able to regulate the learning, and once the engagement with participant and content is there, we are supporting the discourse of our delivery of the content. So social, cognitive and teaching presence are very essential application and theory behind the blended learning. There are various strategies of teaching: by visualizing, by inquiry based, by behavioral management. We counsel students, our faculty member, and change the behavior. We professionally develop themselves. We cooperative learning by virtue of making a groups, technology, taking the technology in the classroom, differentiating and clarity of anything. So these are few of the teaching strategies which we normally adopt as a means of these theories. Various teaching learning methodologies are adopted these days. We have a student interactive sessions, we have a student seminars, we have a teacher seminars, we have a project based learning, we have a problem based learning, case studies, integrated teachings, focus group discussions, pod group discussions, presentations, panel discussion, fishball techniques where perceptions are noticed, role plays, simulations, tutorials, objective type questions, MCQs, maybe objective structured clinical examination in terms of Form D students, objective structured practical examination. So we have a part of this in our pharmacy curriculum also. What changes we see in a student and teacher by adopting ICT? A shift from knowledge transmitter to a learning facilitator. This is a change in teacher we notice. From a primary source of information to a collaborator and coach and a mentor. From content expert to a knowledge navigator, and from a source of answer to a co-learner. So this is a shift we expect in a teacher. Second, a teacher control and direct all aspects of learning, whereas the new shift is a teacher gives student more option and responsibility for their own learning. So we are becoming a coach and mentors in this way. So like you see, whenever you go for a coaching of swimming, your mentor or your coach will immediately throw you in the water, and he is observing that you do not sink. Okay, so that is how a teacher has to become a coach. That a new role we seek in a teacher. What change in student, what shift in student we see? Earlier the student is a passive recipient of information because teacher's presence is there, teaching presence is not there. The active participant in the learning process becomes an integral part. We can really arouse interest, we can call student by name, we can ask question, we can tell them to participate. Reproducing knowledge, producing and sharing knowledge, and participating at times as expert. Learning as a solitary active in previous students, but now learning collaboratively with others. So in group learnings and various modes of learning. So these are the shifts we are expecting. So what are the various benefits of ICT to the students? Increased access to the information and knowledge, flexibility of a content delivery, combination of work and education both. I think there are people who want to work also and want to study also. Learner-centered approach is there, higher quality of education and new ways of interaction. What are the advantages to the employer? High quality, cost effective professional development at workplace, upgrading of employee skill, increased productivity, developing a new learning culture, sharing of cost and training time with employees, and increased profitability of training. Portability, change. Then government has an advantage, increase the capacity and cost effectiveness of education and training system to reach target group with limited access to conventional education and training, to support and enhance the quality and relevance of existing educational structure, to ensure the connection of educational institution and curriculum to the emerging networks and information, to promote innovation and opportunities for lifelong learning. So there are the advantages of using ICT to students, employers, and even indirectly to the governments also. So how we present ICT tool? This is up to us. Whether we substitute it, the technology acting as a tool, substitute with no functional change. If we are not changing functionally, if we are working as a teacher only and delivering the class only, so we are just substituting. Our second method is SAMR model is augmentation, like synergistic. If we are adopting the technology and using not only as a substitute, but the improvement in our deliveries and functions, that is augmentation. Then modification, the technology allows us to significant task redesign. Like if we are doing using videos also, PPTs also, and many other methods also, then we can use them to redesign the curriculum or delivery of the topics, or redefining or redefinition. Technology allows us to creation of new task which was previously inconceivable. We were not able, then we are able to redefine it. We have really given it in a different way. So here comes the monitoring and evaluation in technology. Monitoring and evaluation is very important, both at the, not only at the student point of view, even at the faculty point of view. We must monitor and evaluate faculty's performances also. We must develop a system approach for better education result, and we must have a SABR policy intent, SABR implementation, and then tools for measuring teacher performance and skill. Only then we will be able to justify the quality of teaching, and we will be able to see the student learning. So this monitoring and evaluation through technology is very important. One has to have a policy and policy implementation in this regard. Now, if we see a SWOT analysis of blended learning, so there are a lot of strengths, weaknesses, opportunity and strength. Threats or challenges. I think tomorrow also it will be discussed by Dr. J.D. Gupta, but just to brush up, serving many students in a short time is a strength. University readiness to support and invest in blending learning project, connected both in and out of class, basic IT skill, top management commitment to implementing instant result and feedback, meaningful use of study material, and independent learning. We see some weaknesses like low bandwidth. We have just saw lack of plagiarism tools, insufficient number of computers, dependent on internet, lack of commitment, limited competencies, stressful when time limited assignments are given, the resistance to adopt new changes or new technology, lack of awareness, absence of an up-to-date blended learning platform, and absence of university policies also. These are some of the weaknesses. Opportunities are competencies-based system that makes it easier to manage individual progress in line with university expansion plan and growth, accessible way of learning regardless of location, available external support of blending learning specialists and management support is an opportunity. Challenges are unreliable power supply, unreliable internet connection, exchange of username, password, internet shorthand used in students' assignment, chat sessions, distraction, dependency on computer is very much there. So at least handwriting or language is very different part. So if we see a different opportunity, it has become an indispensable support, provide access to education regardless of time, wider availability of course material, enable development of collaborative skills, enhance community engagement, teaching experiences, and has the potential of transforming higher education in India. shortcomings in IT infrastructure, poor access, less exposure to basic skills, low awareness in IT literacy. I think we must undergo a IT literacy also. Majority of government institutions do not have IT system. India's linguistic diversity necessitates the development of content in multiple language. That is also one of a challenge. Less quality content available, improper research, less intervention of faculties, unavailability of infrastructure, lack of technical skill, cost of development, duplicate content. Students can copy the content, lack of training programs, though we are doing it, lack of technical support, updating the original content, plagiarism, privacy, preparation time, income group, power supplies, cost of equipment, etc. So these are some of the challenges are there. Now let's see pharmacy education, how has adopted the technology. Let's see pharmacoinformatics in patient care. I think pharmacoinformatics is playing a vital role. Patient informatics works with pharmacy information management system that helps the pharmacist safe decision about patient drug therapies with respect to medical insurance records, drug interaction, as well as prescription and patient information. So though in our country it is very poor, but most of the countries have adopted pharmacoinformatics. Similarly, bioinformatics is a sub-discipline of biology and computer science concerned with the acquisition, storage, analysis and dissemination of biological data, most often DNA and amino acid sequences. 3D printing is these days are additive manufacturing. Abhi tak we are using subtractive manufacturing processes there where there are lot many losses are there of the raw materials as well as the other adjuvants. Whereas in 3D printing we can reshape, redesign, recolor or customize the tablets by making three-dimensional solid objects from a digital file only. The creation of 3D printed object is achieved using additive processes, layer upon a layer. 3D printing is the opposite of subtractive manufacturing, which is cutting out or hollowing out a piece of metal or plastic. While as 3D printing enables us to produce complex shape using less material than traditional. So very much adopted even in medicines also. ML biotechnology, biosensors, they are widely used these days. Apple phone, Apple Watch, ML sensors are well known as mobile health sensors, which are used in practice of medicine and public health support by mobile devices. They are easy understanding of ML. We need to have an overlook on the biosensor, which are well established in the medical field. Biosensors are the analytical devices which will convert the biological response to the electrical signals. So they are also widely used. And with the advent of inclusion of medical devices in the definition of drug in Drug Act 1940 and Rules 1945, I think medical devices business is definitely technology driven. Then we have a simulation laboratories or softwares where they accurately simulates and analyze the behavior of granular materials such as powder, tablet, capsules. It is powerful tool used to model common pharmaceutical manufacturing processes such as mixing, blending, granulation, and tablet coating. So we have a simulation software. We can, where we sitting at our classroom only, we can really visualize the manufacturing processes or the compression and coating of various formulations. Automation has become in dispensing also. You can dispense a tablet, capsule, or even a polytherapy, multiple drugs by using automation techniques. Automation in context of manufacturing is in use of equipment to automate system or production process. The end goal is to drive greater efficiency, accuracy, precision, either increasing production capacity or reducing cost. So automation has become known more as using machines these days. Even robotics have come as a part of automations. So we have to adopt. These are the technology driven, particularly learnings also, and then industry adaptations also. Applications, the nanotechnologies, patient profile monitoring, SMS alerts, drug design, virtual clinical trials, micromeritics, analyticals, digital books, virtual tours. So these are gradually becoming a new norm for all of us. and we are adopting to all these methodologies in a great way. We had conducted at SDT. So these all are called experiential learning, and experiential learning is basically having an experience, authentic hands-on engagement, connecting or joining prior knowledge and experience, creating or bringing to life a new understanding, sharing or integrating different observation and ideas, reflecting or cementing into the brain, and exploring by asking questions which are relevant. So cycle of exponential learning is very interesting. If I hear, I forget. If I see, I remember. I do, I learn. I share, I understand, and I reflect. I do some mistake. If I reflect, then I improve also. So exploration, explanation, elaboration, engagements, and evaluation, these 5 E's makes a very interesting cycle of experiential learning. So these virtuals and all that, they are giving us a very good experiential learning. So one video you saw. Similarly, at SDT, we adopted a virtual tours in manufacturing facilities, analytical facilities, research and development, printing and packaging, storage and supply chain, product management, clinical research. I can show some videos, or maybe if time permits, interesting videos also. Yeah, I think we should have a 5-minute. I'll show a video which we used it. Just a minute. I'll show one video, Dr. Yogendra.
No problem, sir. Time is there. So.
Is it visible?
Yeah.
Dr. Yogendra?
Yeah, visible, sir.
Sound? Sound आ रहा है?
Yeah, आ रही है आवाज आ रही है.
Indian Pharmacopoeia Commission (IPC), an autonomous institution of the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare Government of India, has been working since 2009 to develop quality standards for drugs and dosage forms used by the pharmaceutical industry, health professionals, and other stakeholders. It is committed to promote the quality of drugs and pharmaceuticals, rational use of generic medicines, and to ensure safety of medicines in order to protect human and animal health. IPC publishes Indian Pharmacopoeia and its addenda, updates National Formulary of India, and organizes training and research activities on quality standards for drugs. IPC also provides IP reference standards (IPRS) and impurity standards, which act as a fingerprint for identification and purity of an article under test. The IP standards are authoritative in nature and are enforced by the regulatory authorities for quality control of medicines in India. The Indian Pharmacopoeia Laboratory of IPC is a WHO pre-qualified and NABL accredited in the field of chemical and biological testing, as well as a reference material producer and proficiency testing provider in compliance with ISO. It is equipped with modern sophisticated analytical instruments like NMR, LC-MS-MS, ICP-MS, AAS, HPTLC, etc. IPC has published the 8th edition of IP 2018, having 2,928 monographs, including new monographs of chemical category and FDCs, biotech.
Long video. I'll show how from IPC2 we went to Arbro, then we
track research to ensure the quality of products across industries.
Dr. Saurabh Arora. So he has given a very interesting tour.
Or other requirements, and then they move the system, move the sample into the system. Then this team is supported, and all these also macro like the calcium, all these are analyzed on a ICP OES, which is an inductively coupled plasma. You can see there's a, you can have a closer look. So every HPL. of this is done. And you can also see there is an emergency shower in the lab. So safety is a very big concern working in the lab. So people have to wear masks, they have to wear their protective eyewear and all. And also we have to have the showers and all and take the weight properly and change your street clothes. There is a clean area.
So I'm running through because it's a long video, so we'll do it fast. So that
the lab.
So I hope you have enjoyed this video. I'll continue my presentation with my remaining slides. Is it visible, Dr. Yogendra?
Yeah, visible, sir.
Okay. Slides now?
Yeah.
So we conducted so many manufacturing visits, virtual visits, jinka recording we have. Now these days we are started a series of pharmaceuticals. So where we are developing skills of the students with new and new job functions available in the industry. So now we see this interesting slide. This is a very good slide for my faculty members. Look at the one slide where exactly, see this person is holding a tree. That means this person is a conventional learner or faculty member who doesn't want to adopt a technology. So if he will not accept and adopt technology, this tree will grow, he will remain here only. Whereas in this photograph, we see this horse is a technology. If you will sit on the technology and as early as possible, if you will adopt, you will go further fast and you will become a great teacher, because technology and you, then together you can really reach to miles ahead. You can develop your own videos, you can develop your own e-lectures, e-contents, you can share it with many people. People are earning also very good money internationally by developing good technology based materials. So there are so many job profiles these days for students where technology has really made lot of inroads. Academics has adopted technology, mass media and communication like medical writing, codings has taken technology, pharmacy practice, pharmacoinformatics has taken technology, pharmacovigilance has taken technology, data analytics research, this also is now technology driven only, ML technologies, clinical research again is a technology based. So we have to accept and adopt these technology, ask many questions to ourselves, community of inquiry, how this technology can be useful to me, how I can really play. That is very important part of our learning. So these are 6 important principles of self-responsibility as a teacher. Instead of criticizing others, be quiet. That is a self-responsibility principle. Instead of complaining, I would appreciate if you make a suggestion. Instead of looking for a culprit, find a solution. Instead of playing with victims, strive to become a winner. Instead of justifying your mistake, learn from them. And instead of judging others, judge your own attitude. So these are the 6 principles of self-responsibility as a good teacher. Now we must acknowledge these great pharmacists. These are the great pharmacists. Henry Nestle, who has created a Nestle company, and he was a pharmacist and became such a big company these days, nutraceutical companies, Nestle. Coca-Cola was developed by one of a pharmacist only. Penicillin, one of the turning point in antimicrobials use. Then remember, if we do not have a Disprin or Crocin these days, how we are going to really live? And there is no substitute today for paracetamol and Disprins still. So thanks to these great pharmacists who have really given great things to the world. So in last, the purpose of education is to make good human beings with skill and expertise. Enlightened human beings can be created by teachers only. And the creativity is indeed the result of our education process, and the environment of the institute, and above all, the teacher's capability igniting the mind of a student. A teacher can definitely ignite a mind of a student, and that with the help of new technologies, I think it has become more simpler to. That is why companies like Byju's and many others, they are really becoming a very rich companies and very successful companies, because they are reaching to the students. Okay, so in the last, I thank all the good audience and participants and attendees for patiently listening to my presentation, and thank you very much, Dr. Yoginder, Dr. Mona, all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Over to you, Mona madam.
I hope you have liked the content.
Thank you, sir, for wonderful talk. Sir, we will try to implement your valuable suggestions in our teaching. Now this is the time for question answer session. Sir, we have received some questions from our participants. If you permit, we want to raise these questions in front of you one by one. Okay, thank you, sir. For question answer session, I would like to invite Ms. Deepika Datta, Assistant Professor, Maharaja Agarsen School of Pharmacy. Over to you, Deepika.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Mona.
Deepika.
Sir, I'm making her presenter.
Just on your camera.
Yes. Deepika, you are presenter now. Please continue.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mona ma'am. Very good afternoon to each and everyone. I, Deepika Datta, I will be your moderator for the Q&A session. So before going ahead, I really want to congratulate Professor Vijay Bhala sir for enlightening us with such a beautiful PPT and his knowledge, sharing knowledge with us. So, sir, I have few questions from the faculty. So my first question is, will the technology will replace the teacher? Will technology will replace a teacher, or it's a substitute for a teacher, or somehow it will replace the teacher in coming years?
Thank you, Deepika. In fact, it's a very interesting question. As I think in my presentation also, 2-3 places I highlighted. Definitely, we cannot replace teacher. Rather, teacher can replace, augment. I would say it is an augmentation or synergistic combination a teacher can make. If teacher, I shows you that slide, that if a teacher becomes a jockey and sits on a horse, which is a technology, then horse will run very fast and the teacher will automatically reach to that level. So now it is up to teacher if he becomes a good jockey of that technology. So teacher has to accept and adopt technology, and I am very sure no institute can run. Yes, there would be short-term courses, there should be value-added program, there should be some certificate programs where tutorials and all that videos will be available, like Coursera's, Neptals. But as such, experiential learning cannot be there without the presence of a teacher. Because even in Bloom's taxonomy application, if somebody is applying skills, who is there to evaluate and analyze? At least someone has to be there to evaluate and analyze those applications. So finally submit a result. So I think technology cannot replace a teacher, but I would definitely say if a teacher adopts the technology, they will be a winner.
Thank you, sir. So, so next question is how the ICT tools will enhance the research capabilities in children.
Yeah, sure. Very good. Deepika is another interesting question. Here I would again say ICT again. If you look back up maybe 15-20 years back, when you used to go for a literature survey, you used to search out so many publications and journals, scientific journals, and then only you used to find the relevant materials. But now technology has helped us basically to give an access to the global information on our smartphones and on our laptops or on our personal computers. So now again it is up to you how distracted we are or how attractive we are to that relevant information. If we are distracted from the basics, then probably we are not able to gather the right information. But if we are looking for a right information, we can definitely make a good compilation of an information, and then we can really. So here I would like to narrate one very interesting story that we have to look into the benefits. Okay, so we have to show benefit to the researcher. How we can show? Once when I was visiting some international site, so there was a lift. Beside the lift there was a stairs, and on the stairs, after every 5 stairs, there was written, you reduce 250 calories, you reduce 300 calories, you reduce 350 calories. After 5 stairs, there was written 250 calories. After 10 stairs, there was written 300 calories. After 15 stairs, there was written 350 calories. So it is up to you. They were showing the benefit. You cannot order someone, you do this, but you have to show the benefits. So many of the people, they were not using lifts, they were using stairs, because they was understanding if we will use stairs, we will be able to burn our calories in that way. So again here, we have to show the benefits, and we have to understand that research is nothing but, it is designing, basically, applying your skills and designing a new idea. So it is up to you how knowledgeable you are, but if you are not able to apply those knowledge, then definitely you will not be able to come out with a new idea. So it is going to definitely help. All ICT tools, technology are going to help our researchers.
Yes, sir. Surely.
And
so
reducing their time.
Is student feedback forms are really important, or they are really the basic tool to evaluate the quality of teaching of a teacher?
Yes, to some extent. I would say there are 30 to 40% false informations are there. We cannot really depend upon that they are able to judge a teacher. A student cannot judge a teacher in a way, because the student has their own limitations of judging a teacher. But yes, there are some important questions, very simple questions, which definitely give a correct answer. How punctual is a teacher in the class? I think that answer you can get. Are you really interested to attend the class? So instead of talking something very technical, a feedback question framing is again another art. What questions you are asking from a teacher and what type of information you want to seek. So you should not judge a teacher's knowledge from a student. You judge their attitudes and behavior from a students.
So, next question is there any software where we can create experiment for liquid or semi-liquid dosage form?
There are many softwares available. Right now, I do not remember, but yes, we can check the compatibilities also, the excipients compatibilities with the active drugs, or then we can really set the proportions also, in what proportions they'll be very useful. So I'll be sharing with you through my mail.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Thanks so much.
I have one question, sir, actually. That's a common question, I think, for all the institutes all over the India.
Yeah.
Can we do such practice that we can make a virtual laboratories for all the subjects? So in this pandemic times, it will be helpful, because I have seen so many 1 or 2 labs in the YouTube and something on Play Store.
No, you are very right, Dr. Yoginder. We never heard in our life you have a language lab, you have a mathematics lab. We heard this before, but these days we are having a language labs also. We have a mathematics labs also, all in the schools, and simulations labs are created all throughout the countries. Simulations labs are there, where even you can really see. I have seen a simulation software where I have seen all type of compression and coatings and everything, visualizing it through our 3D images only. So similarly, simulation labs will be a need of the hour in time to come. What you are calling it as a virtual lab, I think maybe down the line, 5 years, PCI will ask us to have a simulation lab or virtual lab in your institute.
Definitely. Because I have seen yesterday in that D Pharma updated syllabus, they have made it model pharmacy. That is the good idea from the pharmacy. That we should have model pharmacy.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Because if pharmacy practice, until unless they don't go to a pharmacy, they will not learn the drugs and their categories and their uses.
Definitely. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you, one and all. I hope it was interesting to you.
Definitely, sir.
Thank you so much. Over to you, Mona ma'am.
Thank you, Deepika. Thank you, sir. Now it's time to conclude the session. For this, we have Professor Sonal Sethia ma'am among us as a participant. I would like to invite Professor Sonal Sethia ma'am, SGT College of Pharmacy, SGT University, Gurugram. Please, ma'am.
Thank you, Mona ma'am. I hope I'm audible.
Yeah, yes, audible, madam.
You are audible, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Yogender Singh, sir, for giving me the opportunity to conclude the session for the very creative and supportive leader and our mentor, Dr. Vijay Bhalla, sir. Now, not long ago, whenever we thought about the future, the first thing that came into our minds were flying cars, robots doing all the work, cutting edge technologies, robotic assistance in performing surgeries, wonder medicines, innovative techniques, curing all the disease. But never we had thought that education would be imparted smartly too. What a massive change the education, learning, and teaching pedagogy has witnessed, especially in the last decade. Professor Bhalla talked in his presentation about the theories of ICT and blended learning and teaching methods, right from Bloom's taxonomy, use of project-based learning, seminars, e-learning, flipped classroom, till the use of hybrid learning, conducting online lectures for students from our homes, creating virtual online content for students, videos, mobile learning, simulations, virtual platforms, developing courses, virtual visits, etc. We, the teachers, have witnessed, grown, and learned a lot about various tools and technologies along with our younger generation. The pandemic has brought us closer and emphasized the need of adapting to new ICT and its so many advantages in the education sector. As Dr. Bhalla had mentioned, we have to adapt and upgrade ourselves to become great teachers. Agreeing with Dr. Bhalla again, the merging of real and virtual world along with experiential learning is necessary to produce a conducive teaching and learning environment in pharmacy education. And this is truly the need of the hour. Thank you for conducting such a contemporary FDP on this for all our teachers. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sonal ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I would like to invite Mr. Navjot Singh Sethi, Assistant Professor, Maharaja Agar Singh School of Pharmacy, to give vote of thanks to our respected eminent speaker and all participants of EFDP. Navjot ji, please.
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yeah,
yes,
audible.
Yes, you are audible.
Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor R.K. Gupta, sir, respected project in charge, Maharaja Agar Singh University, Shri Suresh Gupta, sir, our today's guest, Dr. Vijay Bhalla, sir, Principal, SGT College of Pharmacy, respected Director, sir, Professor Yogender Singh, all the faculty members, dignitaries, and all the participants digitally connected to the program. I, Navjot Singh, Assistant Professor of Maharaja Agar Singh University, on behalf of Maharaja Agar Singh University, would like to extend a very hearty thanks to Honorable Vice Chancellor, Project in charge, sir, our today's guest, respected Dr. Vijay Bhalla, sir, for gracing today's program. Thank you, Dr. Vijay Bhalla, sir, for your very interesting and thought-provoking address on theory supporting blended learning. Thank you, sir, for your presence and taking out valuable time from your busy schedule. I also wish to express my gratitude to Director, Sir, Professor Yogender Singh, for his support and guidance, I would like to thank to coordinators of event, staff members of School of Pharmacy, and technical team for making this program a great success. Finally, the wonderful participants who turned up in such a great number. Thank you all for your participation. Thanks to all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Navjot.
Thank you, Navjotji. Now I request our director, sir, to say a few words at the end of this 4th day of EFDP.
At last, this was a very wonderful session from Bhalla sir. I think we should have apply all this knowledge in our regular life. He has given so many examples, so many videos he has shown. So we should know the actual need of the day, that the ICT, use of ICT. This is not the just 3 words. This is actually a lifetime our achievement. We have to work hard on it, because so many people still, we are not familiar with the tools, internet tools, and normally I think more than 50% people are not at all comfortable with the instruments. So I think we should know each and everything, and we should have knowledge of these things. So once again, thanks to Dr. Bhalla sir and all the audience and my dear colleagues, my dear friends and attendees. I welcome you in the day 5th tomorrow at 2:30. We will join again for the hearing of that. We will have tomorrow Professor G.D. Gupta sir. He is also well-known fraternity in the pharmacy field. You know him in for the great ISF College of Pharmacy. He is one of the best college in the India in its research facilities and all the research teaching pedagogy. So we will be here tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. same. I will share all the links to the WhatsApp group by the evening, and also we will share the feedback form for today. So you have to submit it, and please feedback us in the pleasant manner and the accurate manner, so that we can update the tomorrow program. This is not a thing that we have to submit the feedback form. This is not the only formal. Just be serious for the giving feedback form, because feedback is the very important for us, because we are doing this much hard work for you only, for our faculties, for all the faculties all over India. I think so many persons are there from so many places. So this is very, very important to get the feedback, actual feedback from you. Thank you, all of you. Thank you. Over to you,
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Sonal ma'am. Thank you, all participants. Take care. We will meet tomorrow at the same time, 2:30, with a new lecture on the 5th day of FDP. Thank you all.
Thank you, Sonal ma'am. Okay, bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Bye, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, ma'am.